Good morning, Yanniek.
Good morning.
Most welcome to our conference, and we are very pleased to have you participating in the conference and have a keynote with you. So let's have a brief conversation about regenerative agriculture and conviviality. You're running a farm, of course, La Groenguera. And you have a regenerative academy, so I think you're well known and also have a lot of ideas what conviviality is about. Can you tell us briefly what you have in mind when thinking about conviviality and farming with nature?
Yes, of course. I think for us, farming with nature means a lot that even though we're farming and we're using the land, we're not depleting the land. We're trying to increase biodiversity, increase soil health. We're also trying to increase the water uptake of the soil. And what we hope is that our farming practices are actually supporting the ecosystem and not destroying an ecosystem.
Yeah. Can you tell, I mean, how do you practice that on your farm? I mean, farming with nature sounds quite ideal, but I mean, what does involve?
Yes. So, for example, there's a few things that we do on a very big scale. That is, so we only harvest the cereals after a certain time, so that the bird species that is living in the grains, they can put their eggs and they can breed, and therefore we are improving their population. What we're also doing is we're making hedges and borders between natural areas, so that the habitat of many different animals is growing bigger, that they have more space to live, that they have more space to hide, to breed. We are making ponds and sediment traps, so that's amazing what happens there. And we make a pond, within a year there is frogs, eagles, all kinds of water snakes. So every animal really comes back to this area, and it is really amazing how it increases life on the farm. So we're always busy with like how can we live together with this ecosystem, and how can we support this ecosystem, and therefore this ecosystem can also support us back.
Yeah. Well, indeed, that's a nice way of explaining the principle. But you know, like I said, I mean, you sort of create a very lively farm, you know, really regenerate things. So you should encounter a lot of, I mean, it's not just about soil, but a lot of, well, animals, non-humans, whatever. I mean, that must be a huge number of animals, whatever you came to know in the past years.
Yes, definitely. We also have these wild cameras that at night you can see who's walking around, and we have seen badgers, wildcats, deer, all kinds of smaller animals. We even have had a lynx visiting our farm 2 years ago. So the lynx is really like an animal that needs a lot of space. It's almost extinct here in Spain, and it couldn't stay here yet because we don't have enough rabbits to feed it, basically. So we're in the process of also increasing the rabbit population so we can have a lynx here always, which would be amazing.
Yeah. Well, we all know, of course, nature doesn't have a real, you know, it's not good, it's not bad, but you might have also quite some troubles with farming with nature. I mean, what would you, I mean, what kind of things, you don't need to explain all, but what kind of things you have to deal with as a farmer?
So there's always, of course, the question of pests and plagues. So the more you let nature go, the less you know who's going to come, or what is going to come. So in conventional agriculture, it's a lot easier to just spray when there's a big plague and you kill everything. Of course, that's not something we do. So sometimes you have to deal with lower harvest or a crop that gets eaten by a certain pest. Also, we have, for example, many wild boars that love to roam the fields every now and then. And just before the harvest of the grapes, they eat all the grapes. So yeah, you have to be a bit flexible in a sense and know that you have to share in a way, and not everything is for humans, but also some part you have to say that's just for nature.
Yeah, but nice that you put it that way. I mean, it's about sharing. You just don't, you have to share with nature, with animals, and also with people. And talking about that, how do you actually share your produce? I mean, how do you do that? You just don't produce for yourself, but also for, how do you see them, clients, customers, whatever? How do you see people buying your stuff, or how do you do that?
Yeah, grains and almonds. So the grains they get bought by someone who imports grains, and that goes on a big bulk. But and they're bought by a cooperative that we are also part of, and it's a cooperative of regenerative organic farmers. These almonds in a regenerative organic way. Then there a lot of smaller produce like the vineyard. We have apples. We have aromatics that become essential oils. We have vegetables that we process, and that part of it we share and sell to locals, and part of it we make jams and we make tomato sauce and things like that, which we also do together again with the students that are here. It's always a lot of fun. This is actually the moment that we do much of that. So there's a lot of harvest now going on.
Yeah.
And also the people in our village, of course, they share in all of that. So I can maybe show it. So here, this is the little village, and we have like around 15 people living there, and they help in the vegetable garden and they help managing that, and then we can all eat for a big part of the year.
Yeah. So they sort of in turn for helping you, you get also, they share in the food, in the produce.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
And part of your produce is sold on the market or to locals. So that's a bit how you sort of create your business, so to say. And the thing about, you will get into some concerns you have later, but anyway, you also run an academy. So you have quite some students and also people who want to become a regenerative farming. Is that the idea? What's the main idea of the academy?
Yeah, so we've seen that a lot of people are interested in learning about farming. Also, a lot of students would like to have a farm experience, and combine basically the practical on the farm with the theoretical that they've learned. So we want to offer this place for students where they can come. We offer a program, we share all the information that we have, and we have some questions ourselves on how we can transition more towards this type of agriculture and how we can improve. So the students help us with that. And in turn, we help also the students get this really amazing experience on the farm, learning a lot about animals, about harvesting. There's many different aspects of farming, of course. And besides that, we have programs that are more for farmers. We have a crash course on regenerative agriculture. So people come here for a week. That's more short term. And then we have like more day courses. So that's for entrepreneurs of the area. We have courses for young people, for kids. So we have kids coming to the farm. And we try to, in all the ways possible, share our knowledge. And I see that there's a horse. on the loose.
Yeah. You know what? One of the things you wondered, I mean, what do you see as the most urgent concerning events to you? What, I mean, what, you being a regenerative farming, what seems most urgent to you?
I think what is most urgent to me is that I see that people have given up a bit on living in the countryside, which means many things, and which means that the countryside is emptying, which means that farmers who have kids don't want their kids to stay in the countryside, so they send them away. And that in turn means that the intergenerational aspect that all these farmers had before, like I'm going to take care of this farm for the next generation, that is gone. And that means over exploitation and a lot of just taking as much as you can, because there's nobody left after this anyway to take care of the land. And that's a big pity, I think. So this whole mindset of I'm just going to take as much from the land as I can in a short time, and then when I die, nobody wants it anyway, so it doesn't matter. And it would be great if we can inspire young people again to stay on the land, because the land is just taken care for a lot better when there's people either living there or working there or loving the place. And you can just see how that changes a landscape a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, that's of course very interesting, and also I think very rewarding if you see what you can realize. I mean, you know, when we talk about farming and, you know, the big problems about biodiversity, climate change, I guess you're also affected by that. But anyway, one of the things I learned from you, at least also on your famous Instagram account, that you try to measure your carbon footprint now. So you're also, so is that a way to deal with climate change, or are you sort of making clear how you can deal with it as a farm? Do you have any interest in making it kind of business to you to sort of get a payment for it? What's the idea of that?
So first of all, we want to know what is our carbon footprint, because in the end, we want to be carbon neutral or carbon positive. That would be amazing. And it's not something we are yet. So we want to know where can we improve and how can we improve to become carbon positive. There's also payments for carbon at the moment, which might be a way to also indeed pay for these very big experiments of no-till, or pay for biodiversity measures that we're doing. And at the moment, that is not very relevant yet for us, because these payments are very little compared to the cost of changing certain practices. But it's definitely something that we want to continue with in the future. And it's another way of looking at farming. So you have the carbon farming, you have regenerative farming, you have biodynamic. There's many ways of reaching a similar goal, that is taking care of the land and making sure that we can live off the land for many years to come.
Yeah. Yeah, the whole idea, of course, is that by farming, you sort of only not just regenerate ecosystems, it's also that you sort of help reducing the, you know, the CO2 and help mitigate climate change. You know, but these payment schemes, I mean, what's your idea about it? Because you have different ways of doing that. I mean, it could be done by taxes and public money, but you also see big companies like Microsoft or others who sort of try to greenwash their business by paying farmers to plant trees or whatever. I mean, what's your idea about it? I mean, any idea how it should be done?
I think in some areas it's already done, and it's maybe even more easily done. We are in a very dry area where things grow extremely slow. So many times we're not interesting for these carbon schemes, because when we plant a tree, maybe we have a forest in 60 years. But when you plant a tree in the north, you have a forest in 5 years. So for companies and things like that, this is a very different story, of course, and they don't want to wait that long with seeing these results. So that's where we have maybe a more challenging situation here in the south than people in the north have. I hope that at some point no-till practices get a proper amount of carbon funding so that it becomes an actual feasible thing for farmers to do. Because now there is some money, but it's never enough to cover the lack of yield that you will have when you implement these type of practices. So it's still not interesting for a farmer to do it.
No, I mean, in the in the European Union, we talk about the Green Deal and Fork to Farm. So this should be available some budget for carbon farming, so to say. I mean, is that something you're looking forward to, or how do you see that?
I mean, there is some budget. It's just that, as I said before, so far that budget doesn't cover the extra cost that we would have. So we've been doing these tests. And for example, if we would apply total no-till, we would lose more than half of the yield. And these carbon schemes don't cover that.
No, yeah, no, that's clear. I mean, that's I mean, it's not just, you know, a business model. I mean, it can help, of course, to get a payment. But anyway, it's we've been talking already for 15 minutes, I see. What kind of comment would you like to make to all the people that are watching your video and taking part of the conference? Do you have any message to them?
I would say, if you can, look at what you buy. It's really important for us farmers that whatever we do is also supported. Oh, sorry, I was gone for a second. Yeah. That look at what you buy, because it's important for us that the demand side is also functioning, that people demand organic, that they demand a more sustainable way of produce. And I think if we do it on both sides, then we can really change the system.
Yep. Yeah, that's clear. Anyway, we could talk for many long time. I mean, but hopefully we get some, you know, some feedback on the websites, and you might have a look yourself as well, and maybe you get engaged with other people in conversations. But anyway, nice. For now, I would like to thank you for your brief conversation, and I hope to visit you one time. I've never been there yet.
You're very welcome.
Yeah, I should.
Anyways, you're very welcome.
Thank you very much. Also on behalf of the conference conveners. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.